Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be watching BZM Exhort Invoker. I was looking through Dota 2 Pro Tracker, and I noticed that Wex Invoker was not actually the only Invoker being played. There was actually quite a lot of Exhort Invoker. Now, I will say that I think Exhort Invoker still often relies on your teammates. This is a hero I would generally recommend if you're going to pick it as Exhort to last pick with a variety of stuns. This game he has Fiend's Grip, the most notable one being Chronosphere, as he's going to be rushing an Ags this game after Midas, and a Pangolier. It's a fantastic game for Sunstrike and Cataclysm in particular. Another thing that I'd like to note about Exhort Invoker, if you're going to pick something of the sort, is that it's generally best to pick this if your team doesn't have too much farm priority. What I mean by that is Exhort Invoker is inherently greedy. In fact, it's so greedy that he doesn't leave the mid lane at all. He didn't gank a single side lane, and in fact, he only hit his first neutral camp at minute 9. Basically, you farm mid and put pressure on the mid tower over and over and over again, and that is all you do. So you want to make sure your team doesn't need you to open up the map, but technically you open up the map in somewhat of a different way by putting pressure on the enemy mid laner through denies and the mid tier 1 tower. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm going to be able to help you. Like literally with the gameleap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the gameleap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below, I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there. Alright, so let's start it off with the laning stage. Honestly, Exhort Invoker's laning stage is pretty simple, but you want to make sure you have everything here down to note. The first thing he does is he's going to sunstrike the range creep. You should always do this too, even if it's stuck inside of the wave, like it is here, it's a good thing to do. As you can see, you generally want to drop it when the range creep is around half HP, and then follow it up with an auto attack to make sure it at least doesn't get denied. He ended up just getting it with the auto attack, but it doesn't matter, just practice this, it's important. You're not really using your mana for anything else, so might as well use it to secure the range creeps. After that, you don't want to be too aggressive. The thing about Wex Invoker that makes it a better laner that auto-attacks a bit more, even though you'll see him hitting the Void Spirit because Void Spirit is committing for the range creep and is tanking melee creeps, even though you're seeing that here, generally, especially against ranged heroes, you're not hitting the opponent nearly as much as Wex Invoker. Why? Because Wex Invoker takes 2 points in Quas by level 3. Exhort Invoker doesn't take that second point in Quas at level 3. Generally, he's going to go for a second point at Exhort as it scales quite well. In terms of Forge Spirit usage, BZM, who's the player we're watching, who by the way is OG's mid laner and is rank 1, you heard that correctly, rank 1, summons Forge Spirits basically off cooldown. Not exactly, and I'll kind of cover the differences, but you can see he summons them very consistently. One thing I do want to note about Forge Spirits is at the early levels, you should absolutely not use them to pressure very much until they're about to expire. They give away a lot of gold. It's 30 to 40 gold. That's basically an extra last hit. Instead, you should only use the limited amount of damage they provide at level 1 to go for denies and CS. That's the way to go. That is all you're doing, right? And I want to stress this because I know a lot of Exhort Invokers get over-aggressive early on, and that's how they lose the lane. You're a ranged hero with mediocre armor and poor movement speed. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm strong because I'm strong later on. You're strong later on, but you're weak at this point in the game. Now, in terms of what you do in the laning stage, you want to just pressure every single CS. With multiple points in Exhort and a Forge Spirit, you can kill creeps from a very high HP pool. What you need to learn if you're going to do this Exhort Invoker is how to use the Forge Spirit to CS. All you need to do is go to the demo mode, spend 5 to 10 minutes, grind it out, get it down, and then, just do it in your games. If you can do this, you will easily have 30 to 35 CS by minute 5 and a significant amount of denies. That is how you win the lane as Exhort Invoker mid. Can you get kills? Yeah, if the enemy sucks. But in general, you can't, especially in this bottle water rune meta, so you want to gain your advantage through denies and good gold. Speaking of the water rune meta, one thing that is crucial is denying water runes. We'll see here at the 4-minute mark, BZM remembers that he could deny it. He was even a little bit slow here, I will admit. You want to generally send the Forge Spirit to the water rune at about 357 or 358 so that it gets there in time. But you're going to see he denies both runes. Probably should have picked that one up. I think he just didn't want to miss the creeps under tower, so it's somewhat understandable. And then he denies the other rune with his Forge Spirit. this is great, right? Because now this Void Spirit, you know, he isn't low, but it limits his ability to shove mid and then take the small camp and rinse repeat. So this is a big play you should make every single game as Exort Invoker, especially in this meta. Other than that, you're gonna see, and I think this is probably the most important clip of the laning stage, as it's basically gonna be a rinse repeat of what I'm about to show you here. He's level 6 now. He's gonna switch to Quas consistently in between CS. Don't be lazy and just have Exort on. Please constantly switch to Quas in between last hits. It really adds up, and it's gonna be the difference between dying or not in a lot of situations. So please stay on Quas, right? He's not switching back to Exort until the CS actually comes up. In fact, he was even denying it on Quas in this situation. So you can see, you know, the general idea. Keep your HP up so that when you do get contested, you can continue to trade and go for the denies in CS. As we'll see, eventually he's gonna summon a Forge Spirit, but for the most part, you're just denying. You're keeping the wave back, keeping the wave back, making sure that your enemy mid laner, you know, just basically has to decide between jungling or getting CS. In this case, the Void Spirit was a little bit behind, so he decides to jungle, but all of a sudden, BZM is level 6.5 to the level, right, almost 5.5. I mean, I get close to 5 3/4 Void Spirit, right? Almost full level advantage at minute 6, which is freaking massive. And that's considering he's also buying Midas, so it's not like he's even doubling down on stats. Now, we're gonna see him hit his first jungle creep of the game here, and you might be wondering, Speed, how do you determine when to hit jungle creeps? Well, essentially, you just have to determine when it's too hard to get denies. So essentially, the later the lane goes, the higher the spells of nukes are. And so if you can't easily deny creeps, then you should be jungling. Because one of two things are gonna happen. Either you're gonna be able to deny creeps, or the enemy's gonna shove in the wave, because if they're not shoving in the wave, and they're just like auto-attacking, then you're probably gonna get a lot of denies, and you should play for that. Once again, with the Forge Spirit and Exort, you hit for like 150. So yeah, there's that. But once like the lane gets to the point where it's like, okay, I got my level advantage, this guy's like level 7, you know, he's gonna have max dissimulate, he's just gonna dissimulate the wave, kill the range creep, E, and then like the wave's basically dead. It's not worth your time to try to contest. And so instead, now he's gonna look to push in the wave, kill the small camp, kill the large camp. Obviously you have to pay attention to where the wave is to see whether or not you should go back. In this case, he's giving Bane a little bit of XP, so he doesn't put some crazy emphasis on going back to the lane. Unfortunately, he ends up dying here. Just a really nice gank from the enemy team. But yeah, that's the gist. It's also good to give your supports XP if they need it, because your hero jungles very quickly, so that's fine. The later the lane goes, around minute 8 to minute 10 to minute 12, is a great time to let your supports sap the lane and for you to jungle. But regardless of the fact that he just died mid, what is he going to do when he respawns? Well, you guessed it. Well, maybe you didn't guess it, but you guessed it. He TP's mid, right? He's gonna try to defend the mid tower. Unfortunately, DK ulti makes that pretty hard. But after that, he's gonna look for the small camp. Okay, it's not there. Gonna hit a little sunstrike, well played by his Bane. And then he's gonna look to continue to pressure this mid tower. Over and over and over again, you can do this. Your hero's very hard to fight into. The biggest advantage of Exort Invoker is how good Forge Spirits are against supports. A hero like Grimstroke or even Enchantress pre her ulti will have a very hard time fighting you, and if they gank you, all you need to do is cold snap the support, put the Forge Spirits on them, and it will often kill them or at least force them away from you. So knowing that, what you can constantly do is pressure mid. As long as you have the reaction that I just told you, you're likely not going to die to the gank. In fact, I've had multiple games, when I was like 4K and 5K, I grinded Exort Invoker because it was a great laner. As you can see here, it can be a great, it used to be even better in the past, but it's still a great, you know, quite great laner as long as you stick to what I'm telling you. And what I would do is I would do exactly what, you know, he's doing here, and then a support would gank me like a shaman or a lion. I would click the Forge Spirits on them, I'd be a level up on the enemy mid, and then I would kill them both, or at least kill one of them and get out. It was a consistent thing. Also, look at his items, right? He went Midas. By the way, he didn't even go boots in this lane. It depends. If the enemy mid laner kills you really easily, like it's a Storm who's having a good lane, then you should probably buy boots for defensive purposes. But he didn't even go boots. He went Midas into Wand, range up, Null Talisman. The reason why this is important this game is they can get on top of him. Anytime that's the case, don't completely greed out. Go for the Wand, go for the Null, go for the range drops. Be tanky. You also need the mana regen anyway, so these items are just frankly perfect for your hero, and yeah, that's exactly what you want to do. So he goes for his first gank of the game here after taking mid tower at minute 12, and the main reason why he makes this gank, I want this to be very clear, is because the enemy team is pushing towards his tower. On top of that, he's not TPing in. The problem about TPing in is usually if you TP in, Invoker doesn't have the best chase in the early game. Cold Snap is okay, Tornado isn't great with Exort, and Ice Wall's not really chase. And so you don't really want to TP in. It's like kind of bad 9 times out of 10. And so instead, what you want to do is like what he does here, clear mid and then wrap behind once you see this rotation happening. So that's what he does. He's going to come in, try to get behind them. Unfortunately, dodge sunstrike from the enchantress, but he takes her out. After that, onto the DK. He actually prioritizes, it's funny, he prioritizes, the 3 main spells he prioritizes are Force Spirits, Cold Snap, Sunstrike, and then the next 2 are Ice Wall and Alacrity. He doesn't use Meteor very much in the early game, and I think you can if your team has like a lot of reliable stuns, but in that case, there was no grip, no Fiend's Grip, or no Rolling Thunder, so it's better for him to be the disable rather than the damage. And that's just something you have to kind of like think about when you're playing Invoker. You know, am I the disable or am I the damage? Or do I need to be both, I guess, in some cases. So after that gank is successful, what he's going to do is start to farm. I also, you know, this is a big thing why Void is so good with Invoker outside of the Chrono synergy. It's because Void doesn't jungle very much. It's a hero that needs lane creeps, as we'll see here. You know, he doesn't really want to jungle. He can with Mask of Madness, but it's not like a Naga who's going to wipe through every camp in like 3 seconds. So what he's going to do is just go from camp to camp to camp to camp. And you really just want to do this. You want to walk to a side lane, gank the side lane, and then camp, 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 camp. Right? Camp, 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 back to mid. The reason why you want to camp, camp, camp back to mid is so that you don't, once again, have to TP into stuff. If you're mid, you can then rotate the fights. And you'll even see here, he clears mid with a Meteor and then shifts towards his Bane Skywrath, who are on a smoke gang. So he was like, okay, maybe we'll find a kill here. Oh, I guess they won't find a kill. The smoke isn't finding anyone. Okay, I'll just go back and farm the triangle, farms Ancients, farms, you know, large camp. And this is how you play Exort Invoker. You're not the roamer. You're not the guy setting up kills. You're the guy clearing the waves and taking advantage of the jungle farm. The only pressure, once again, you should put is generally on the mid tower. And that's kind of about it. Unless you have like a smoke gank that you can help out with. All right, so let's get into the bots stage of the game. After the Ags, he goes bots here. Now, you don't have to go Ags every game. The other items that I've seen people go on Exort Invoker are Orchid, actually. It's quite cool. You can just kind of right-click people to death, or you can go bots after the Midas to make sure you're able to be a little bit more active on the map. Once again, the main idea of this hero is splitting the map, clearing waves, and just kind of ripping through every bit of available farm on the map. As you can see here, his team is taking a mid fight. He TP's top, is going to clear in top, uses the Meteor generally on the waves. Invoker is a hero that can get ganked pretty easily, so clearing waves as fast as possible, whether or not it's with Alacrity Forge Spirits or a Meteor, is a good idea. You don't really want to auto-attack the wave in most cases, unless you know you're safe 100%. Either way, you can see he does a really good job of kind of splitting the map. You know, I think he gets a TP top here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Void Spirit goes top. He sees this as an opportunity to collapse on mid. He also just kind of saw them chasing, and he's quite strong at this point in the game, but hits a beautiful 2-man Meteor into a 2-man EMP, into a 2-man Ice Wall. I mean, you know, it's no shock that this guy is rank 1. I mean, the execution here is beyond clean. Like, it's honestly beautiful, right? It brings, you know, a slight tear to my eye, to be frank. Picks up the double kill instantly into Roche. I mean, this is as clean as it can get. Right? And I didn't even nitpick this game. I was like, I picked one Invoker game. I'm like, all right, this isn't that good. I went to the second one. It was this game. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. Right? And yeah, it's just kind of at this point, it's a rinse repeat. You generally want to clear towards side lanes. Optimally, you don't TP to side lanes. And the reason why is if you can run to side lanes like he does here, it enables you to TP other places and TP out. So that's what he does. Summons the Forge Spirit. He saw them ganking his Bane, so he felt a little bit safe. Gets the Forge Spirits, backs up, even Ghost Walks out because he was afraid of a smoke gank, and gets back towards mid. Now, you don't always have to get back towards mid. It kind of just depends on whether or not you think your team's going to make a play. If they are, you should wrap back towards mid. If they aren't, you should get back to the side lane, as we see here. Once he feels like, okay, my team is chilling, they're not doing anything, Forge Spirits with Alacrity into the side lanes, and he's doing that over and over again, clearing out the bottom wave. Eventually, his team's going to make a play towards top. He doesn't want to be too far away, so what he does is he meteors the mid wave. Once again, clearing waves consistently, but safely. Then eventually, it's sort of into his triangle to be a little bit safe. I think he determines that, hey, I want to get back towards the bottom side of the map. Ends up TPing top. I think he expected to jump onto the Void, and he wanted to be in position to counter-initiate with a Tornado. So usually you don't just want to sit behind your team like this, but if they are at a tower, you need to be very ready, right? So the thing is, if they're not at a tower, you really want to focus on getting out the waves. If they are at a tower, you still want to clear the waves because you have bots, right? You still want to get those Forge Spirits out, but you need to have a very, clear eye or quick eye on, your team, because they're likely going to get jumped when they push a tower, and you have to be ready. You do not want to be even 3 seconds late to one of these fights. Otherwise, it could end up costing you. All right, next up, let's talk about teamfight execution. So there's a couple main things to note. basically, here's how I should summarize it. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for you guys, because Invoker can feel overwhelming, and he is overwhelming, but the thing, you really need to kind of like simplify the execution of these late game team fights, because there is generally a pattern. If you think there isn't, well, you're kind of crazy. Here's the general pattern. The most reliable spells are Forge Spirit, Cold Snap, and generally Sunstrike, because it goes through BKB in the late game. Cataclysm being the case here. So these are the main things, right? Forge Spirit, Alacrity, Cold Snap, and Sunstrike. The problem behind, Tornado's okay too, because it can be the setup and it can like buy time for certain spells. It kind of just depends on the game, if your team can follow up on it or not. With Chrono, it's actually okay. But a lot of the other spells like EMP, Chaos Meteor, or like Ice Wall, they're not good against BKBs and they're often kited in the late game. So if you prioritize those, they're clunky and they often can just be avoided. So if you lead with those, you kind of just miss them most of the time. So in general, like EMP, Meteor, and Deafening Blast are often saved. Obviously, Deafening Blast is a bit of a weird one. That one doesn't necessarily have to be saved because it can disarm people. But in general, like, let's look at this team fight here. So he's ghost walking around, doesn't want to get jumped, sees an opportunity to kill this guy. I think he knows that this guy has no Dispel. Yeah, that's the big thing here. So the reason why he's jumping this guy is he knows he has no Dispel, right? No Dispel, so he can potentially kill him. That's a big thing, right? Because Dispels and BKBs are obviously a hard counter to Invoker. The only answer you have against those things are Sunstrike and Alacrity. And as a result, he sets up on this guy. Unfortunately, he loses vision, so he couldn't hit the Cold Snap. Very unfortunate initiation, but he's going to kite to the outside. Okay, sets up his Alacrity. He knows, okay, the fight's not really too deep in, so Alacrity might carry. That's generally what you want to do. Cataclysm on the Fiend's Grip, right? Pretty nice. After that, he sees a DK who he knows is pretty underfarmed. This DK goes a pretty whack item build in the Mage Slayer. So this guy has no disengage, no Yules, no Force Staff, no BKB. So he's a perfect Cold Snap Meteor target. And these are the targets you want to go for. Honestly, the enemy team's items are a bit sus in the fact that they have like basically no defensive items on certain heroes. But, it is what it is. They went the items that they went, and you can punish them for that. So when killing the Monkey King who's BKB'd, what did he do? Prioritize the Sunstrike and the Alacrity against the other heroes. That's when you go for your big spells, your Chaos Meteor, your Deafening Blast. And obviously against BKB heroes, you can wait till they end as well. And that's the gist. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, let's get into the next point. All right, and that's going to be about the end of the video. I will cover the items he went briefly. So he ended up going Ags into bots into Lincolns. The Blink was actually after the Lincolns. He went Lincolns this game. I think he felt that if he went for Lincolns, he would basically never die. Because the DK stun is kind of his only threat. Like Monkey King, you can sort of get away from. The Void Spirit, even Void Spirit, it's like he sort of has to E-Blade you to kill you. So the Lincolns is good even there as well. And as a result, yeah, it's just like anytime the enemy team has light lockdown, like they don't have that many stuns, I really like Lincolns. Because it's like, if you go, what a lot of people do wrong is they'll buy Lincolns against like 18 stuns, and it's like one of them is going to hit you. So yeah, in those games, it's kind of risky. But in a game like this, I actually prefer Lincolns in like light stun games. I think it's better. So this is a good game, a good example where, they don't have the great of lockdown. Aether Remnant isn't great. It's kind of unreliable. Boundless Strike is a short stun. DK is their best stun. It's Lincoln's blocked. So it's quite good. He'll never get stunned. And the mana is quite nice. It's also a good split pushing item. It's a better split pushing item than BKB. On a hero like Invoker who has a lot of disengage. So there's that. The reason why he goes Blink this game, I think, is just primarily to follow up Chrono, to be frank. Alacritying the Void and throwing in a Meteor into Chrono is very valuable. It's also just a good positioning tool, to be honest. Like, I've played a decent amount of Invoker, and honestly it feels great after your defensive item, whether or not that's BKB or Lincoln's. Having Blink to just get off an Ice Wall, get off, your spells into a Chrono, or even just like Alacrity, Cold Snap, some support. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of application to this item. So I think it's basically always good. And then finally, he finishes it off with a Refresher. Pretty simple to understand why you would go Refresher with a Void. You just Refresher the Cataclysm. That's basically, like, literally, you're not trying to do some wombo combo. You'll rarely see pros do wombo combos because they're just kind of impractical, and good players will have items to counter them 9 times out of 10. So, like, yeah, it's usually you're just seeing like a double Cataclysm. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want this type of guide for other heroes, you can comment that hero down in the description down below. Especially if you notice that I don't have a guide on the hero, either on YouTube or the website, then it is particularly good if you let me know and tell me that I don't have a guide on that hero, and I'll be happy to make one at some point. But alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.